Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now our first story comes from Should John Go Dark and says, would I be the arsehole here if I cut my family out of my life when I inherit a large estate? Throwaway account because my brother and I communicate on Reddit and I can't risk anyone seeing this. Okay, for background, I, male 24, live a very different life than the majority of my family. I didn't graduate high school but got a GED and started working as a welder and hunting guide. The rest of my family is pretty successful. For instance, my father is a lawyer and my mum used to be a registered nurse. Brothers own companies, sister got married to a lawyer, etc. I'm glad my family found a lot of success, but they can be very shallow and often put me down for what I do for work. My mum will make comments like, when are you going to school to get a real job, or stuff like that. They didn't want to pay for welding school, so I worked in an auto shop to pay my own way through. They often go on vacations and cruises without me because I won't be able to appreciate the culture or food and other BS like that. I love them, but I've been slowly pulling away from them over the last few years, since I can tell that we live different lives and they have no interest in sharing their lives with me. Now, my grandfather's brother Mike and I have always been pretty close. Mike and I used to go hunting when I was pretty young, and even though Mike was working in law, he and I have a shared love of the outdoors and nature. About a year ago, Mike was diagnosed with cancer and has quickly gone downhill in the last few months. I've taken a lot of time off of work to care for him, since he is my oldest relative, and no one else wants to take care of a frail, sick old man for some callous reason. His wife died 15 years ago, and he doesn't have any children. He recently asked me if taking care of him was hurting me financially, and I told him that I was cutting back on hours at work, but I loved him more than any of my other family members, so it was my pleasure to take care of him. The next time I went to visit him, he revealed to me that he was having his will changed and he would be willing his hunting cabin — it's not a cabin, it's a small single family home with power and running water on 70 plus acres — to me, along with about $100,000 to get it fixed up and start your life. He wants the rest of his estate to be liquefied and donated to different causes that he was passionate about. Mike is actively dying now. He asked to be taken out of hospice so he can die at home with his dog, who will also be coming with me when he passes away. In his own home, my family was talking about how much money Mike has and how when he dies, they want to convert his hunting cabin into a summer vacation home, and how they were going to fund a big memorial trip to Europe on his dime, since we are his last remaining family, and they expect the majority of his wealth to be broken up between us all. They do not know that everything is being donated and I'm getting the house and some of his money. I know that if and when they find out about what Mike has so graciously done for me, they will rip me down and curse his name. I don't want to be around for the fallout. I plan to set aside some money for renovating the house for full-time use and start a small welding company someday. So would I be the arsehole here if I cut them out of my life as soon as Mike is gone? Seeing this new greedy side of them has soured me a lot. I don't even know if I can stand being around them anymore. Even though I know that Mike always says that your family should be everything to you. Money can often bring out the worst in people. It was one of the things that my dad, before he passed away, he was scared about it tearing up the family. It never happened that way. I guaranteed him that money wouldn't come between us in that way at all. But I think that came from seeing some of his family members do the same. And, it really does bring out the worst in people sometimes, doesn't it? The fact that Mike is still with you, although sadly nearing the end by the sounds of it, and they're talking about what they're going to be doing with his house and how they're going to be using his money, absolutely disgusting. And I don't blame you for stepping away and just honoring Mike's wishes by taking on the home, his loved dog, and honoring his wishes. A commenter says TOP, not the arsehole. Using what he left you and building up your life is the best way to honor your uncle. People can be vultures when someone dies, and it's always satisfying when they face an empty field. Besides, since they're all so super successful and cultured, they shouldn't mind if the family poor gets a leg up. Opie says thanks. I want to honor Mike as best as I can, and family was very important to him. So I was worried I might be spitting on one of his core values by cutting the rest of my family out of my life. Opie had some information on why his family thinking welding isn't like a noble profession, and says apparently welding doesn't look good on the family, and I'm throwing away my potential to pursue an easy way out because I'm lazy and don't care about our long family history of being lawyers, judges, and doctors. Opie adds information on making sure Mike's will is actually legal and the family can't contest it. They said, I uploaded this 4 hours ago, and within the last 4 hours when I went to my parents' house to eat dinner, the primary topic of conversation was all about Mike's assets. They're debating who will get the house he lives in, who will get his life insurance, etc. They are picking destinations in Italy and Greece they want to visit with the money, and I quote, I hope he doesn't hang on too far into the summer because that's the best time to visit. They did not even offer a small plate of soup or anything for me to bring back for him because he's not eating. He is in small amounts, but he doesn't feel well and doesn't have much of an appetite. I'm beyond enraged right now, and this is a vent. Hopefully my resolve to, it says, to get of them will last after I have cooled down. Opie on how Mike is doing and if he doesn't have that long left to live. Opie says he's on a lot of meds at the moment and mostly we just sit and watch reruns of old Tom Hanks movies. He seems to be pretty peaceful, and sometimes we talk about good hunting or fishing trips we've been on and stories from his youth. The dog is a golden retriever named Maisie, and she is a good old girl who will be turning 8 this year. I am in pain. I don't want any money or cabin. I just wish Mike and I could have taken one more trip. Honestly, at this very moment, I'm angry at my family and grieving over Mike's impending passing. Thank you, and everyone else, for your kind comments and helping me see clarity through the haze. Opie says, my parents were very busy and I'm the baby of the family by about 9 years. When my 3 older siblings left home, it was just me, and because Mike was already on his way into retirement, I mostly lived and hung out with him. I told him about my first crush and did landscaping for him to save up for my first car. I told him about what I was afraid of, and he taught me how to hunt, how to fish, and basically everything that made me who I am today. When they moved him into the hospice, I was breaking down, but it seemed like all my family cares about is his money and the trust fund. Venting here has helped me in many ways. I appreciate all you guys. Info on Mike's property and how they're going to be split. Opie says Mike has 3 different homes and they are very large and beautiful, except the cabin, which is small and beautiful. He has a lot of assets that are being liquefied and donated. The 100k in cabin will be all that gets passed along from his wealth. So around 4 months later, Opie came in to update the post and said, I figured I may as well make an update to my original post, so here it is. Mike passed away shortly after my last post. He died peacefully in his sleep. His last waking hours were spent with me, Maisie, and the nurse that was caring for him. He is buried next to his late wife. He lived a good life. Some of his last words to me were, we had a pretty good run, didn't we? The will issue was hilarious to me and was a great pain reliever. Mike is always looking after me, even after his death, because watching the bombs fall in real time was like chicken soup to my grieving soul. Yes, Mike did leave the cabin and money to me. He also left me his guns, his dog and her stuff, and his fishing poles and tackle, and a few mementos from over the years. He changed the will 3 years ago and simply never told me or anyone else in the family. He left various trinkets for other family members of our family that were pretty on the nose. For instance, he left my father, who spent a long time complaining about the contractors doing the work on the house, a bag of old hand tools. My sister got a box of wine glasses. One of my brothers got a drawer full of pens and pencils for your blossoming legal career. He also gave all of us some money for a round of beer in his honor. Watching everyone go from fake sadness to excitement to horror and disgust was quite the trip. My mum kicked the pot of flowers outside the office so hard she tipped it over. My father just stared out the window in silence for a really long time. Oldest brother held it together until we made it home and then started screaming and swearing about getting a fucking box of pencils as a thank you for being a part of his life. I've been moved from the disappointment son list to the shit list. As some of you noted, they weren't exactly angry about the cabin and the money Mike left me. but more so his larger assets that were being liquidated and donated. That drove them completely insane. The main target of their abuse was the primary organization that Mike willed the rest of his estate to, and other than an initial explosion and some snide comments, they seemed to take it in stride. I haven't spoken to them much ever since Mike's passing and the will issue. There are still issues and such that need to be worked out, and I was told that could last up to a year. The cabin has been locked up. I set up some cameras and a gate alarm. I'm moving in slowly, hopping between here and my apartment until my lease is up. It's definitely dated, and I'm currently working through renovations and repairs. Because my phone number is tied to my work, I didn't want to change it. Just opted to block everyone except my mother in case something really bad happened. After a few days of her complaining and questioning why Mike left me something so nice, she quietened down. Last week she began calling and texting me again and telling me it was an emergency. I spoke on the phone with her, and lo and behold, it was not an emergency. They want me to donate the cabin and land to my sister since she's thinking about starting a family and wants to raise her future children holistically. I told my mum that my sister and her husband have a double income and a lovely house in a completely different state than me, and if they wanted to move out to the country, they were completely able to do so, but I would not be giving them my land. She then suggested they buy it from me for $200,000, which is far, far less than it's worth. I said no. I got everything from I'm a selfish bastard to if I don't support my sister's dreams of raising her kids in the countryside, I'm dead to her, to Mike would want me to give the cabin and land over, to see if we ever do anything for you ever again. You entitled arsehole. I feel like it should have been harder to hear those things, but it just feels like they're trying to get me to give up what my great uncle willed to me, and it made me angry rather than sad. My sister also got on the phone to cry and say it was her and her husband's dream to raise their kids specifically on Mike's land. I kind of felt bad saying no to her then, but in hindsight, she's never mentioned it before, so maybe this is a new development. Since then, they've been contacting me by email, social media and the like, hounding me to let my sister have or buy the cabin and land. So, despite my best efforts, the people of Reddit are right once again. I should have gone completely no contact. I've deleted my socials, and since I've moved job locations, they don't know where I'm currently working. They do, however, know where my house is. Sometime while I was at work, my mum and sister drove over and knocked on the doors, tried to open the side door and looked in the windows. On my doorbell camera, my mother very clearly tells my sister not to touch anything so he can't sue. I'm thinking of putting up a locking gate. Right now it latches but does not lock. Everyone is now blocked, and I'm putting together a list of people that would need to be notified of a phone number change since I want to change my number. Not really sure how to go about keeping them from walking onto my property. About 2 weeks ago when I came back to my apartment, my parents were both waiting for me to confront me about how devastated my sister is that her future children won't have the experience of growing up in the country. I'm kind of afraid that they might camp out at the property until I give in. I put up no trespassing signs, and I hope that's enough. I know one of my brothers drove by a while back because he snapped me a picture of the road my house is on. Other than that, I am well, Maisie is well, and Mike is laughing from the grave. I'll stick around a little longer, and then I'll be logging out of this account permanently. P.S. If anyone has any suggestions for how to find a good dog groomer, please let me know. Mike had a groomer for Maisie, but now that we've moved, they are 6 hours away, and I can't keep taking her there. She's shedding a lot, and Mike was firm that she can't be shaved. I have some brushes for her, but I don't know jack shit about brushing a dog. Also, she has a lot of bandanas and bows that Mike had her wear, but I think I'm tying them too tight because she doesn't seem to like wearing them. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. YouTube, my friend, you can learn anything on YouTube. But what a bunch of assholes, holy moly. They are really trying to guilt you to give up that house, aren't they? They're determined to get it in some way, and the only way that I can think of keeping them away is just taking this on legally, otherwise they're not going to leave you alone by the sounds of it. It just sounds like they all know how much that house is worth and want to get their hands on it, because they were trying to buy it off you for $200,000 as well, so it's clearly worth a lot more than that. And the fact that they're calling you an entitled arsehole and saying you're the selfish bastard and all this kind of stuff. Absolutely ironic. But there were some people to OP suggesting getting a cease and desist letter for harassment against his mother and sister for entering the property and helping the rest of the family. And Opie says, I don't think I can do anything legally, but I'll ask. I was allowed to move in, but on paper I don't own this property yet. Apparently it can take years for the will to be worked through, so I'm not sure what I can do about it legally. I don't even think I could sell the property to them, even if I wanted to. I think they want me to help provide for her and give her future kids the dream life. She's never been to this land before. When she and my mum showed up, it was the first time she had been there. Lawyer brother hasn't spoken to me yet. The brother that drove by works in insurance. Opie on Mike's dog says, she's a golden retriever. A little older but still active and playful. She's really well trained, so I'm hoping it won't be hard to find someone willing to work on her that's closer to my home. I'll follow previous advice and ask around at the vets. Top advice as well. Opie added one final little bit of information about his relationship with his family and said, I'm adopted. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's have another story. And as always, I was scouting around for a little bit of neighbor drama, and I found this story from Starship456, who says, am I the arsehole for calling out my neighbor who tried to take home all of my neighbor's chicken tikka masala at the beginning of our potluck? Last weekend, I invited my neighbors over for a potluck/pool party. Nothing big, just the neighbors in my cul-de-sac. Everyone has kids around the same age, so it was a good time for everyone. There is this Indian couple that lives near us. Call them Pooja and Jim. Now Pooja's cooking is incredible, and she brought over some samosas and chicken tikka masala. Samosas as the appetizer and chicken tikka for lunch. Now we have this other neighbor, call her Lindsay. Lindsay loves Pooja's cooking. When it came to the samosas, her and her husband really went to town on them. It was a bit rude in my opinion, filling up your plate with them. Not everyone got to have some. I didn't say anything. But this is what got annoying. When I opened up the food for lunch, Lindsay first takes a big plate of food, and then 5 minutes later, she says her and her family have to go home, and that she's going to take some food back with her. I was like, sure. And then the entire aluminium tray of chicken tikka that people are still taking food from, she tries to take. I was like, okay, this is a bit too much. I was like, hey Lindsay, people are still eating food right now. I'll have my son bring you guys over after some people are done. She then gets mad saying that she bought a big tray of muffins. She didn't even bake these, they are from Costco. And that she is just taking her fair share. It got really weird. It was like she just got super territorial over the food and says that I'm targeting her. My wife steps in and is like, no, we just want to make sure there is food for everyone. She then starts angry crying, puts the food back and says we humiliated her and that we only did this because she is a fat girl. Pooja and Jim step in and they're like, no, it's okay, you can take the food. We can make some more, it's no worries. And if we're low on food, we'll just order pizza. Lindsay leaves and her children leave shortly after. I didn't want to humiliate Lindsay. I just wanted to ensure that there was enough food for everyone. And it's just rude leaving a party early and then taking a lot of the food with you. Pooja tells me that I shouldn't have said anything, that she is actually flattered that Lindsay likes my food that much. Now first I think I need to clarify that I've never been to a potluck. I'm not sure if it's a done thing in the UK or not. I'm sure some people do it, but I've never actually been to one or seen one before. So it might make what I'm about to say completely irrelevant, but if I was invited to a potluck and I took a plate of food round or whatever, I wouldn't be expecting to take any home with me. I personally probably wouldn't feel comfortable taking any food home with me myself, and I would also understand if, you know, someone came up to you and said, oh, do you mind if I just take a little plate of food back with me? Yeah, absolutely, take it with you, you know. But taking a whole tray of food, that's so bizarre. And I personally feel that you didn't humiliate her, you know, she's the one that chose to pick up a whole tray of food to take with her. Like you said yourself, people were still eating from. That's such a bizarre attitude for me. And you know, Pooja sounds like a lovely person, and she is probably flattered that Lindsay likes her food that much. But I would have been like, I like your food this much as well. I love a chicken tikka masala with samosas, so I'd be pissed off if someone picked up the whole tray and took it with them. But the first commenter says, not the arsehole who goes to a potluck expecting to take food home. being able to enjoy the food everyone else brought is the fair share of food you get from a potluck. Also, the distribution of leftovers is usually left to the host and whoever brought the dish. You really just said aloud what everyone was probably already thinking. The disciple Matt says, not the arsehole, that's pretty odd behavior. Not really your business, but I imagine they might be insecure or really struggling financially. Totally not normal to take a good from a potluck that is still going strong. Is this normal or unusual behavior from them? Hope you responded saying, I don't think they are struggling financially. They recently got a new patio built. I think it was just because Pooja's food is really tasty. Oh, it's making me hungry just thinking about it. A few weeks back, I went to this, it's like a Indian street food kind of restaurant. And you order like lots of little dishes and they come out as they're cooked. So as soon as it's cooked, it gets brought to your table. So, you know, things turn up at different times and oh, mate, the food. Oh. Anyway, my mind's going off in all different directions, food-based right now. So I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Have you ever been to a potluck? Was there drama? Let us know. And just a huge thank you for being here, getting involved in the stories. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.